Welcome to Scene, where the art world meets the real world. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with emerging and established artists to offer a genuine glimpse into their lives and minds, all in an authentic and totally straightforward manner. I'm Carrie Scott, your host. And with 2 decades of experience as a curator and art historian, I firmly believe in the transformative power of art, if it's seen.
I don't mind admitting that Alexei Riboud kind of terrifies me. He comes from art world grace, really. Barbara Chase-Riboud, his mother, Marc Riboud is his father. And so his kind of understanding of art, it's pure and instinctive, right? I've studied it for years. He grew up with it. There's a different thing here. And you see that in the work, for sure. He's got a fluency that it's extraordinary. But what I love about being able to interview artists is that you learn something new when you speak to them. And today I realized that actually Alexei is a photographer in spite of the fact that he was raised by artists. This wasn't something that was like a foregone conclusion and not something that maybe they even encouraged. He found photography kind of in spite of where he comes from. And again, I think you see that in the work because it's raw and honest and there's no sentimentality to it. It's just extraordinary. Like him. Hi, Alexei.
Hi, Carrie.
How you doing?
How are you? To see you.
Nice to see you. Should we sit down?
Sure.
Okay. Do you like talking about your work?
It's interesting when you start to like. Well, it has this aspect of looking back, which is not. It's better to project yourself but you learn a lot when you actually try to talk about your work. You say things you wouldn't expect, and then it depends. Sometimes you try to please whoever is asking the question. Or
so maybe not. Maybe you don't love it.
It's an in progress answer. I would say.
Not
but
sure.
We can talk about.
How about you let me know at the end whether you enjoyed it or not. When did you start taking pictures?
Pretty late. I would say I had this camera that was like very rarely used or just on holidays, but I had a film camera, and then, but I never had any ideas of becoming a photographer. It just wasn't in my plans. I wasn't pushed or encouraged. The thing is that I discovered the power of photography just not with looking at other people's work or at listening to my father. Or I discovered just by doing it when I was living in South Africa, in Johannesburg, as a graphic designer and art director in la publicité, in advertising. I would actually go to Soweto every weekend to shoot like a reportage. I came up with this idea that I would do black and white portraits with one film camera. And I had another camera in medium format in color. And I was carrying both cameras, and without planning it, I was doing the portraits of in the informal settlements of women who lived there. And with the other camera, I would like make compositions of the shacks they were living in.
Yeah.
And it all made sense once I joined the two work. It was not intentional at the beginning, but then I realized, okay, this is great. The portraits are really good by themselves, and the color photography is also, but a totally different thing. Abstract, like compositions, like Schwitter's kind of collage, montage in color, and then the beauty of those women, the really close up, like faces. And when I did that, it lasted for a few months. I realized that I mean, how much you could do with photography, as a, telling stories, conveying emotions, and going deeper and deeper, like going into like the history of the country, the economics of the country, the dynamics of it all. Like you could actually, without words, just with images, you could tell a lot.
There's something weirdly, it corresponds with West-West. I didn't want to go straight to West-West, but we're going to because in my brain, and I just did, right? West-West is this project, Miriam Eisler and you shot it together but apart. And there's these two perspectives. And what you were just describing there, it's as if you've always been interested in the way, like the tool of photography can capture different perspectives.
I guess you're absolutely right. It's I was carrying two different ways of doing photography on each side, and it's probably kind of the same reflection you can have with Mariam and the trip, where we come from different backgrounds, we shoot with different equipments, we use different lenses, and so at the end, it's two different ways.
Do you think that you, given so let's talk about your background, your experience. You come from the art world, right? You were surrounded by art from a young age. Both your parents are artists.
Photographer and, yes, sculptor and writer. My mother writes poetry and books, but she's originally a sculptor.
And your
My father is a photographer.
Yeah. So two
He wouldn't call himself an artist, but...
he wouldn't.
I think it's part of his... But he realized that what he was doing was beyond just documenting or, I think in photography, the books are a very important stage, at least much more at his time. Producing the books and the story that goes behind was really like a way of saying that, okay, photography can be at a certain level of quality and providing, everything that he managed to do with his first few books.
Do you think that you're an artist?
In my mind, I'm more than he was, I guess, in the sense that I'm maybe a little more confused than he is, a little more erratic, I guess, it's in some aspects. But I take the craft seriously. I don't think I take myself very seriously.
But you take the craft seriously.
Yes, no. It's you can't do that if you're not. And it's been such a long time that now it's like I've really understood and I've gone beyond just the fact that you use photography, you do what you think you should do. I mean, it takes thousands and thousands of pictures before you really understand what you're doing.
I think that's with anything, right? Like the whole 10,000 hours.
The famous 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
I think Cartier-Bresson said 10,000. The first 10,000 pictures
are no good.
Are no good.
It's a lot.
I would say more than that, maybe.
You think more than 10,000?
Well, it depends because it's like now we have a tendency to shoot more than they used to. Meaning that their 10,000 is probably in the digital age, 20,000 or.
There's your images are tender, I think, but they're not sentimental. And I don't know how you do that.
I guess that it's what drives me a lot when I shoot is the sensuality of the pleasure that you have with your eyes to compose, to arrange, to play with all the elements. And that's probably my starting point. when the emotions, I think, come second. If the first part is well done, I'm not trying to like catch emotions that are like ready to be, like the I don't know, the smiling girl in the street with a cat behind, or I mean, it's not. I'm really, I come from really like a kind of a aesthetic background, like graphic design. So I like to play with words, letters, numbers, textures, trying to make it like at some point like a painting in some of those. Not to say that but I think sometimes I use photography like a painter would use photography to make his paintings like a reference tools, like almost the painting, but it's not the painting. That's my approach, I guess.
I don't know what you mean.
Meaning that I use photography. I don't know how can I explain. Some people draw like they would actually take a picture. I have a feeling that I take a picture in a way that I would like to do a painting. Does that make more sense?
It makes more sense. It's still abstract, though, as a concept. What do you think the point is? Like, what's the point of what you do? What's the point of photography? What's the point of your photography? Like, what's the driving?
I think it's essential. I mean, I don't think I could live really without photography. It's like a very, it's something that saved me, I guess, a few times. It's something that I can relate to as discovering oneself. It's also, I mean, it's a tool to condemn things, to do a commentary on society.
Well, and you go to places.
And I have a tendency to go to places that are not, that could speak to, that people don't really want to go to, or that they don't care to go to, and I think there's a nice way of going to those peripheral, places and trying to tell something about those places that relate to what we consider being like a reference. It's like I like to go to fringes and like uncharted. Well, not that there are that many uncharted territories anymore, but or just going to the outskirts. Maybe it's a way to to go to places that people don't necessarily want to go to as a destination.
Because you want to capture them, because like the legacy or the history of the place, or because there's something innate that you see that you want to capture? Like, it's not documentary photography that you do.
Not really, no. It's really it's I love architecture, and I think it's a way to use the structures of those places as a way of telling a story, like the shacks, the way those women in Soweto, in the informal area of Soweto, the way they built their home was so it was really speaking about their conditions, their situations, the fact that they were on the fringe of the periphery of the main areas of society as a group of people. Or I go to the suburbs of Paris a lot because I feel the tension, and it's mostly structure. I would take pictures of the structures that I found there.
The buildings.
the buildings, the perspectives, and the way those areas. Because Paris now, it's like there's no more like vacant spots. You know, there used to be like what we call terrain vague, places that are like have no use, but they for a photographer it's like open, you know, open to a lot of situations, like terrain vague. I don't know how you would say it in English, but so you have to go to the suburbs to find those uncharted territories, like in between kind of geography.
What drew you to the American West?
What, sorry?
Drew you
What drew me?
to the American West?
I always wanted to go. That was my first trip as a road trip. I lived in the States, but on the East Coast. Never been through the country. Even though my mother's American.
Was it as you expected it would be?
Yes, most parts are. I mean, the feelings that you get, it was pretty close to what I didn't expect. I didn't expect to meet certain kinds of people because of the ideas that America is so fragmented that you know there are places you don't want to go, or the places you're driven to. But I guess no, I love the light, the silence also sometimes, which is kind of a different. When you travel with someone, then you break the silence. I guess that's it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's a good thing to have someone to travel with, but when you're by yourself, I guess you're just drawn to, because you don't have no one to talk to or no one to listen to. It's a different approach. I guess you are more into the what you discovered as what you see. Whereas when I kind of felt with Marianne that I was more relaxed, more, because it was kind of, we were traveling together, and maybe more in tune with my feelings. So maybe the photography was also reflective on, or more about, like a mirror, whereas it wasn't like the window photography, the mirror photography. Mm. It's different. It's a different approach to travel with or without companions.
If you look at that body of work, West-West, against anything else you've done, do you think it looks different?
I think it looks different, but for some reason, most of my work looks different, because I have a tendency to build something around a project that's like pretty specific to that project. It comes naturally. It could be the format, the black and white color, the lenses, the approach. So every project has its own kind of specificities.
That's true. Because I looked through.
Right, they're different.
They're different.
Almost different type of photography.
But for
different
me,
styles.
It looks, or it appears that you trust your camera. And that's really weird, even for me to say it, I think is strange. But I feel that you trust your camera, to do what you want it to do. Does that make sense to you?
To trust your camera, I guess, yeah, it feels comfortable at some point when you know that you're using the right technique or the right way of shooting something. So you kind of lose the idea of the camera at some point.
You lose it.
kind of, yeah. It's just like there, and you just you lose the idea of the camera. Yeah, but you use the camera to to yeah.
We joked about this briefly yesterday, and we didn't actually even joke about it. It was like a fleeting comment. But I think the most boring question you can ask a photographer is like, what camera do you use, and what film are you using? In the way that, like, why do you ask a writer what pen they used, or a painter what paintbrush, or right? Like
I totally agree. I don't think it's quite. But yeah, I mean, I know there's quite a few photographers that are going back to film, analog photography, and it's true that it's a really different approach. Not only the texture, the films, the quality, but especially for street photography or when you travel, and you just accumulate the films in your bag, and you don't know what's in there, and it's like the physicality of it. It's a different approach, I guess, than just looking at the picture that you've taken and kind of adjusting, or that this one you can. It's mentally it's a different approach, but it's the same kind of. I mean, you don't change the way you do photography, whereas it's film or digital. It's just a different process. I mean, mental process.
Mm-hmm. Do you stop to think about what you hope happens to your work or with your work? When you just were in Panama and you were shooting, do you go to Panama thinking, right, I know what this body of work is going to go and do, or do you just shoot and?
In that, yes, no, I'd usually have an idea of what I want to do, because I feel it's something that is interesting to do, to tell a story. In that case, it was mostly the Afro-Caribbean community in Cologne, which is a town at the end of the canal on the Atlantic side. And it's you start to dwell into the story of the canal and see how a lot of those Caribbean workers were drawn to work to do the job, and then some went back, like to Martinique, Guadeloupe, Jamaica, all those islands around Panama, and some stayed. And I thought it was really interesting to see that there was all this community of Afro-Caribbean people, which are very, I mean, there's like the culturally speaking, there's like very different from, the Colombian or Costa Rican. So that was my idea. And then I ended up going back and forth from Panama City to Cologne. So I had those two entry points. And I think the work will be divided in those two centers that can, they can be confronted one to the other, or that can tell a story. But same, I love to, I mean, this is really about the people who live there, who are at the margins of the kind of, I mean, Cologne is a town that looks almost like a war zone because it hasn't been really taken care of. And because this specific population is left behind or left on the side, or so I think deep inside that was the idea. At the end of it, we come back to this the shooting, like using loving that composition aspect. The there's a lot of pictures with walls and a few figures, but I think also it tells about the story and the history of the place.
But what about where it ends up? Like where your work ends up? Do you ever think about that?
Well, hopefully it's, it gets published. I guess that's the idea, to share it.
Hmm.
And sometimes I leave it as it is, thinking that maybe I should push it further, or it's not exactly, and move on to something else. And at this point, it can stay like in the drawers for quite some time.
So really, it's ultimately for you.
It's really, I've worked outside of photography, and photography is really the place, yes, where it's for me. Yeah, it's really the idea is to do what you love doing.
That is the idea. I hope that we're all searching for. What I read somewhere that you said,
I said something.
and I couldn't believe this, that you felt more aligned with William Klein
Did I say so?
than your own father.
That was when I was a kid.
It was like 2011.
Really?
Uh-huh.
No, I don't think the same today. Really, I'm not. But I guess I got influenced by his William Klein's kind of energy. And when you're too close to someone like my father, it's really hard to. You try to find ways to say, okay, this is, I'm more into this kind of things. And I guess now I would say a balance of the two is nice. Like the in-your-face thing of William Klein, and the tender, look, the humanity of my father.
Hmm.
They have different styles. I guess the mix of the two would be really nice. Not a mix of the two, but a combination. They both have aspects that I find unique, rare.
The William Klein portrait of the smoking veiled woman might be one of the best portraits ever. So I'm with you.
Actually, I had a copy of that print.
Did you really?
I had one, yes.
What'd you do with it?
I exchanged it
For what?
for one of my father's prints.
Oh.
Well, it was agreed on all parties. At the time, the photographers would exchange prints. I'm sure they still do. And so some were interested in the prints, and other photographers didn't care. My father didn't care, so he was okay with the exchange, but he didn't really care about having, all those prints. So I took care of the exchange.
Wow. So you don't have the William Klein one anymore?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I also had a few Sergio Laurent prints, which were very rare because you had to have him sign the prints. You had to send through Magnum to Chile, Valparaiso, go up the mountains so that he would actually sign the prints. The prints would come back to Valparaiso, sent to Paris. So that was an experience, an adventure.
I've always suspected that you have a whole unique photography history that nobody knows.
Well, it's like it was all natural to have photographers, yes, around. But like I said before, it didn't really draw me into it. I thought they were kind of very into themselves, selfish, but at the same time, very passionate and extremely actually serious about what they were doing. When people didn't look at photography as like being so I had this idea of like the power of photography earlier in my life.
I'd argue it's more extraordinary that you've ended up being a photographer than most people, right? You look at like cooks' children. They don't go on to be cooks. It's a famous English expression.
Oh, yeah.
Or, the accountant's daughter can barely do math. It's like a thing people say, I think.
Yeah, I don't think photography, you can't, it's not because you grow up in an environment like that. I think it's really a personal thing that triggers something that happens. I don't know. I think it feels something that you cannot, I think from my father, there was this idea that he could hide behind the camera and use it as a way to, relate to the world and go very far away from his environment. So people use photography for different reasons.
Why?
I mean, at the beginning, and then it becomes a craft, and then it becomes a way of living, I guess.
So to go back to what I asked you earlier, why do you use it?
I think I use it because I'm not a big talker. I'm not. I love silence. I love being. I'm a little bit of a solitary person. But at the same time, I'm not very religious. I wouldn't go and spend time in a monastery. I don't think I have the patience for that. I don't have the patience to be a painter, to spend hours and hours in the studio. So I guess the photography is great when you do the things that you want to do, but at the same time you in movements, you are truly a part of life and the excitement of. So it's a good combination of being part of the world, I guess.
Okay, so I have one question that I ask a few artists, and I'm going to ask you, and I wasn't going to ask you, but I want to. If you could own any artwork.
I didn't expect a question like that. If I could own any artwork in the world.
What would it be?
I don't know. That's, a first degree answer or a allegory of I don't know. I'd say what comes to mind is I saw a print of Brassai yesterday. I love his work in Paris, and he's one of my favorite photographers. So I would probably go back to Photo London and buy this print from Brassai.
I'm glad it was a photograph. I'm really glad it was a photograph. I have another question though. I said I wasn't going to ask you another one, but I've got one. We began this conversation with me saying, do you like talking about your work? Is there anything that do you hate talking about your parents who are both successful artists? Do you hate that question?
No, I think they've been so privileged to go through their lives the way they did. I'm really not. I'm probably more uncomfortable with my mother because I haven't seen her work. It was kind of a mystery. The sculptures, the writing, and there was like a veil in it. So I could probably talk better and more about my father's work because I was more personally in contact with his, departures and coming back, and the fact that he was showing his work, and he would do like a carousel projections of his slides, and so I've got those memories of like very, very personal relationship to his craft. Whereas my mother, it's still a mystery.
Thanks Thanks for listening to this episode of the Scene Podcast. If you liked what you heard, I'd love it if you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to connect with us between episodes, follow us on Instagram at WatchSceneArt. I'm Carrie Scott, and I'll see you next time. Get it?